All right, well, we're about ready to go. Glenn's gonna present on his African safari and he'll give you all the details on it, so enjoy.
Thank you, Pat. Like Pat said, my name is Glenn Jones. Who is here from the Sun City Shelter Hills Camera Club?
Glenn, it's Pat Fonstead. I'm here.
Hi, Pat.
Hi, Glenn.
Can you hear me, Pat?
Yeah, I can.
Perfect. Okay. I'm just talking to someone there on Zoom. We have a few people. Who's from the Sun City Palm Desert Camera Club? Yay. Thanks for coming over, guys. I really do appreciate it. Who's here because they saw the email blast? Nobody. Okay. Tom? No, Tom put in award-winning photographer. So if you're here to see award-winning pictures, I'm sorry. These are just my pictures you're going to see today. So this is really about a trip that my wife and I did back in 2019. And I'm going to show you some of my pictures, but we're going to go through Africa in general. So before I get really into the presentation, who's been to Africa before? I'm safaris. Uh-oh, I got a lot of fact checkers. I'm going to be relying on you guys later. I'll explain why. Who has planning a trip or I can have it high on their bucket list? Well, you're planning to go back? Yeah, I guess I'm planning on going back too. Who has gone and wants to go back and get given the opportunity? Okay, so for you people that have not gone, I'm warning you now. Once you go once, you're probably going to want to go twice, 3 times, 4 times. I know people that have gone 5, 6, 7 times. We've got someone here that's been over how many times now?
4.5.
Yeah, and you're going back. So be warned. Okay, let's get into it. Why choose an African safari?
Maybe I look horrible, but I'm not.
Sorry, Pat? Okay, I heard something come. People on Zoom, maybe, if you want to ask a question, fine, on mute. If you're just sitting there, maybe mute your thing, but feel free to unmute if you.
Where's the control screen? Who used the controller to drop that down? You have it? Huh? No? It's mine, I think it's right there. Let me get mine. It'll throw it up there. They've got the volume off.
A minute, just a minute. Okay.
Okay, that's just adjusting the volume.
I just took one.
You do have several people.
Is it a steroid?
What?
Is it
So
a
I'll
steroid?
continue. Why choose an African?
Steroid.
For me,
Steroid.
it's really on my bucket list.
Now, did you understand what I sent you?
No, that's what I'm
Go
going
look.
to
To
check.
Africa a number of times. But
I'm
they
not
were all
terrible,
actually
but I'm
shooting
not going to
animals.
take. I'm not going to take a shower until tonight. Which
Friend,
one do you prefer,
one.
Tylenol or what do you
Golf.
prefer? What
friend,
medication do you prefer?
What did I text you?
Down into his face. He must have had a dozen animals that were taxidermied and stuff and on display. It was the most creepiest thing I ever saw. So I didn't really have any desire to do a safari until I came to this camera club. We had several people, Jackie Mills, some people may remember her. She did a presentation a number of years ago on Africa. And go over and photograph African animals. That sounds like fun. Gail, who's with us here today as well, and Annie, and a few other people went over, 8 years ago now, I guess, and did a presentation on planning a trip to Africa, came back with some wonderful pictures, and basically made a suggestion to us that maybe we can get the camera club involved and go over and do a photo safari. And if we get 6, 8 people together, maybe we could get a deal with, Andy Biggs, which is one I think Gail used, or someone else. Now that never went anywhere, but I went home and mentioned it to my wife that I'm going to go to Africa with the camera club. And the response was, well, not quite this way, but no way in hell are you going without me. So she obviously wanted to go with me. Africa is a large continent, and people don't realize how big it is. It consists of over 54 countries, 1.3 billion people. So where do you start with getting a trip? How do you start planning a trip? Where do you go? What do you want to see? So on, so on. In my case, I got a little bit lucky. For people that were here about a year ago, I did a presentation on South America, Galapagos. And before I went to that trip, I had to go over to the bank to get some money exchanged. I have some South American currency, Ecuadorian currency. So while I was there waiting, okay, someone's in trouble. A white van went by with some pictures of African animals. I'm assuming now it's a big five. I didn't really pay that much attention. With explorationsafrica.ca. Now, for those who don't know, I'm a Canadian, so .ca basically told me this is a Canadian outfit, a Canadian website. So I made note of it. Did my trip to the Galapagos, everything else, came back, and I contacted them. Well, I found out then that they are Dan and Antoinette Mackenzie actually were residents of Cochrane, my little town. And Cochrane is a fairly small town just outside Calgary, Alberta. So they were residents there, and they came over to my house. We spent 4 or 5 hours going through a whole bunch of different questions on what do you want to do, what do you want to see, and I found out a little bit about them. Dan was a photographer that grew up in Africa. His parents were missionaries over there. He married a lady, Antoinette, who was from South Africa, and she spent 17 years managing safari camps. So both very, very knowledgeable. So I'm going to go through some of the stuff that they were asking me. Where do you want to go? Well, basically in Africa, as far as safaris go, you want to start with sub-Saharan Africa. Anything in the north, the gray area there, Morocco over to Egypt, forget that. You're not going to get any safaris there. You may get some camels, but you're not going to get safaris. Western Africa. Oh, my screen is not changing. That's interesting. You're not going to get many safaris over there. Central Africa, the same thing. Basically, you're looking at Eastern Africa, which is Ethiopia, Kenya, Tanzania, down through Southern Africa into Zambia, Zimbabwe, Botswana, so on. But which one is better, east or west, or east or south? I don't think there's any one that's better than the other, but you're going to be getting different things. In the east, you're going to get, the migration, it's the Great Migration. You're going to get open savannas, lots and lots of wildlife there. And why is my screen not changing? No, it's changing up there. My screen is not changing, which creates a problem when I'm trying to read my notes. I'm not getting my notes. I have a cheat sheet. If I don't see my cheat sheet, I don't know what I'm saying. South Africa has more diverse landscape, luxurious lodges, excellent big five settings. But no one is really better than the other. But you have to decide what you want. They are a little bit different. Even the jeeps are different. In South Africa, you're going to get open jeeps. In Eastern Africa, you're going to get jeeps that are closed in, that have roofs and so on now. You see, now my screen is changing, but this isn't. Isn't that interesting? Technology, you gotta love it, right? This is what happened once before and I couldn't get. You guys on Zoom, you seeing my screen change?
No.
No. Mr. Computer Expert?
Yeah.
What causes that?
I don't know.
Jeff, you don't have an answer?
Hmm?
Stop share.
I don't think it's a stop sharing.
And now it's back to the beginning. Try the down key. There you go.
Okay, now it's working. Everyone on Zoom see the screens again?
Yeah, you can.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. Technology you gotta love.
If you want to know what they're seeing, just
Yeah.
look there.
Okay, so what are some of the top safari destinations? Well, one is the Masai Mara, which is in Kenya. Another one is the Tanzania Serengeti, Ngorongoro Crater. Those are very, very famous areas, and Kruger National Park. So those are probably your top three. I'm not saying you should go there, but that's because that's where everyone else is going to go. But that's be a good start anyway. Your top 10 countries for an African safari. Botswana is one. It's renowned for the Okavango Delta and Chobe National Park. Kenya, which is in East Africa, the Great Migration, the wildebeest, so on. Masai Mara, we talked about that already. Tanzania, the Serengeti, Ngorongoro Crater. South Africa, Kruger National Park, of course, is quite famous. Lots of private game reserves in South Africa. Namibia, very unique landscapes, especially in the western part of Namibia. If you're into landscape photography, into the desert there, you get some really, really great shots, as well as some wildlife. Yes, please.
Are these your shots?
All these pictures are my pictures. So every picture you see, whether it's on these slides or not, this is where I need the fact checkers too, because these screens were done using AI and questions in Copilot, but then I changed the pictures out to put my pictures in. So yes, they are all my pictures, every one of them, except for one, and I'll point that out when we get there. So Uganda, known for its gorilla tracking. Zambia, known for walking safaris. If anyone is interested in doing a walking safari as opposed to on the jeeps, so we'll talk about that as well. Zimbabwe, known for conservation, and they have various sanctuaries there. Rwanda, I can't even say it right. Mountain gorillas. And Ethiopia. People don't think of Ethiopia when they think of safaris, but it's known for the Ethiopian wolf, and it gets a lot of monkeys. Now, if anyone was counting and noticing that, there's 5 from South African countries and 5 from Eastern. So really they're balanced. And this list was produced by AI, so I didn't actually produce it. Other things you want to think about. You want to do private reserves or national parks. They both have pluses, they both have minuses. Private reserves are more exclusive. You can go where you want to go. We'll talk about that. National parks focus more on conservation, like any national park here in the US and or Canada. With the private reserves, basically, and there are exceptions to this, with national parks, you may or may not be staying inside the park. Some national parks allow you to stay inside. Some you have to go in the morning. If you're not staying in there, you cannot go in before sunrise. You must be out by sunset. To me, that's a big disadvantage. Some of the national parks, and most of them, you are going to be on a tour and following a loop road. So you're going to be going in one way, coming out another way, and traveling along. If something is happening, you cannot go off that main road. You must stay on the main road. And I'm looking at fact checkers too, to fact check me, but and you cannot backtrack. So once you're on the road and you go on, and if something's happening behind you, all of a sudden it's kill going on or whatever, you cannot turn around and go back. You're kind of stuck going one way and one way. With a private reserve, you can go wherever you want, and you will. You can go all over, but you don't have. Well, some places don't even have roads. You're going to see that. You can go wherever you want, but you're going to pay more for private reserves. National parks are saying they're going to be less expensive. And speaking about less expensive, you can do a package tour. A lot of people going for the first time will choose a package tour. And then go on the internet or whatever, we'll talk about some of that. And pick a tour that someone's already put together, going to A, B, and C locations. Or you can get on there and do a custom tour and decide where you want to go based on what your requirements are and what your plan is. Boy, there's a lot of questions you got to think about. What's the best season for safaris? Luckily, Africa only has 2, dry or wet. And there are advantages and disadvantages of both. The dry season, which goes from June to October, basically you're going to probably see more animals. The bush isn't as thick. The animals are going to be migrating towards a water source. Water starts drying up, they go to a water hole. So you're going to get to see them. Wet season, there's lots of water around everywhere. Plus everything is lush. You're going to They could probably be hiding in the tree bush somewhere, you won't be able to see them. But at the same time, there's gonna be more babies in the wet season. So if you wanna see, you know, the baby cheetahs, the baby this, more chance in the wet season. Plus, if you got babies, you got more predators. They will go after the young ones first. So there's pros and cons of both, but you gotta need to look at what you want. What type of African safari do you want? You can do a classic game drive where you're on a Jeep and traveling around. And these Jeeps usually hold up to 9 people. In the private reserves, you will never see 9 people on a Jeep, but in the national parks, you might see 9 people on a Jeep. So in other words, you might get stuck on the center seat as well, not be able to see too much. You can do walking safaris, you mentioned that. There's a few countries, Zambia, basically that's walking safaris. You're going out with an expert and experts usually to do that. Water-based safaris, you can go on boats and no cruises. Chobe River is one, we're going to talk a little bit about that. Where you spend time on a houseboat. And that picture there you see, and Gail will quite familiar with that particular boat. She spent a number of days on that one. That's the Panagon, and they specialize in photography safaris. This one was on the Chobe River, happened to be parked next to us one day, so I took a picture knowing that Gail was on it a year before that. One thing I want to point out is this particular one, you know, it says what, 2, 4, 6, 8, about 10 cabins, Gail, something like that. And you see the other boat parked next to it. When you go out on safaris on the river, you don't go in the big boat, you go in the smaller boat, you'll go up and down little tributaries and so on. And while you're out doing your safari, the big boat will end up anchoring somewhere else. Then you come back to a different location that night, and even in the afternoon.
And the little boat is a gimbal. Everybody has their own.
Yeah, on this particular one with the photo safaris, Gail was pointing it out, and you probably can't see it there now. But if you look in the center, there's tripods in the center, so you can actually mount your cameras on the tripod that's held within the boat. Now, remember, the boat's still moving, your animals are still moving. I'm not sure how much a tripod really helps, but you do have access to them. People that were here for my Galapagos presentation last year, I recommended don't waste your money on photography safari. Because in the photography safari in the Galapagos, you're still in the park. Remember, Galapagos is 97% national park. You cannot go in before sunrise. You cannot come out. You must be out by sunset. You must stay on the loop. You will have a park ranger with you at all times. So you're still restricted what you can and cannot do. In Africa, totally different. You want a photo safari there, they will not be going into national parks. They're going to be going to private reserves and so on. So they're going to probably get to places that you couldn't get to. So there is a big plus in going on the photo safari. They probably have cameras you can rent as well from them, some big lenses. They have tripods in the middle of the boat for you, et cetera, et cetera. But given everything else being equal, your combinations and so on, you will pay more for a photo safari. So really the bottom line is you need to do your research. And how do you do that? You use the internet to get some ideas, seek advice from experienced travelers, consult travel forums, sites like explorationsafrica.com. Remember I said it was .ca earlier, it's now .com. Dan and Antoinette, they moved out of Canada and now they're in Portugal. I guess they didn't like the cold winters in Canada, much like a few of us that are down here now. But they do specialize in package and custom tours. And I'm not done recommending them. They did our itinerary. But a company like that is what you want to do. So you need to find someone you can trust and they can put together a nice tour. So lots and lots of planning. And I hadn't even discussed what camera equipment, what lenses you should bring, the clothes, etc. You are limited to weights and everything else when you go over there. But that's a whole different discussion for a different day. So what did we end up with? Well, we ended up with a custom tour. We went from mid-September to mid-October, so late in the dry season. We stayed in Southern Africa. We did a mixture of safaris and non-safaris, and we're going to go through all of them. Unfortunately, you're stuck here with me for a while. one of the recommendations is you start off somewhere to get acclimatized, get over the jet lag, etc., before you go on the safari. So we choose Cape Town just to get in there, spend a couple of days there, and we did a few tours. Then we flew up to Botswana, Okavango Delta. Then we did a Chobe River cruise, which is a cruise and a safari. Then we went to Victoria Falls. And the main reason why we picked this itinerary or this time, and we timed at Victoria Falls, we were there for my wife's, one of her milestone birthdays, I guess. I'm not going to say the number now, she's not here, but we planned it such that we would be there for her birthday. Then we went back to South Africa, Dulini River. That was one of our, I guess, luxury places. So that's where we spurged a little bit in that one. And then we went over to Mozambique for a chance to rest and recuperate. And you're going to understand that as we get through it. Two popular spots for after cruise is Mozambique is one. It's very, very quiet beaches, a place to get away from the crowds. The other place that's quite popular is Tanzania. Oh, sorry, Zanzibar in Tanzania. But that tends to be very, very lively. Lots of, lively beach bars and lots of people. And that's not our thing. So any questions on that kind of stuff before I get into actually my trip? You can say, interrupt me whenever you want. So we started off in Cape Town, South Africa. Cape Town is the capital of South Africa. Now, I'm not saying Southern Africa, I'm saying South Africa, which is a country in itself. Cape Town's the second largest city, just under 4 million people. Biggest being Johannesburg. The earliest European to settle there, or sort of was 1488, and they called it the Cape of Storms. And they figured that wasn't going to work, and it's not going to attract many tourists, so they renamed it to the Cape of Good Hope. Originally settled by Europeans, by the Dutch. It was basically halfway in the trade route over to India with the Dutch East India Company, which was, a very, very large company in its day. So they were there from the mid-1600s to pretty much the end of the 1700s. Then the British took over. They tried to hold on to it, but if anyone familiar with history, the Boer Wars, where it kind of went back and forth. So I think there's two major wars where the Dutch took over again and British got it back again. Anyway, it became independent in 1910. The apartheid era was, mid 1900s to just 2006, but now becoming a fairly major tourist area. We stayed in an area called the V&A waterfront. That's basically right in the heart of Cape Town, is right on the harbor, and it's the oldest working harbor in the Southern Hemisphere. It's now converted to a tourist area, I guess. This is the hotel on the left that we stayed in. It used to be an old warehouse back in the day, now converted to a really, really nice hotel. You got the Table Mountain in the background. You can go on and on the stuff it has there. It's the size of 80 rugby fields. That mean anything, anybody?
That's a lot.
It's 150 football fields for the Americans. It's quite large. It's got 15 conference venues, 450 different shops, 80 different restaurants, over 100 different entertainment venues. It is one of the most visited destinations in in Africa. Yeah, about 24 million people are visiting every year. The V&A, for people that don't know, stands for Victoria and Alfred. So Queen Victoria and Prince Alfred. We did a couple tours there, tour of the wine country. I do recommend that if you ever go there. Craig is online. Craig did shark diving, so people are more adventurous. Stellenbosch and Franschhoek are two Dutch settlements, both settled back in the mid-1600s, 1679, 1688. Stellenbosch has 150 wineries. We tried to do a few, but we didn't get to 150 of them. Franschhoek is really known for their world-class dining and drinking wine. So they just basically drink the wine that Stellenbosch produces. Now the winery started, that's back in the Dutch East India days, As a way to get some wine into the sailors as they're going around the Cape, I guess. So beautiful, beautiful country area. Another tour we did was a long day. We started at 8 o'clock in the morning. We did from Cape Town down to the actual Cape itself. This is Hope Bay, Hout, from the Chapman's Peak Drive. Chapman's Peak Drive is a very famous drive down there, very, very scenic. We went into the harbor here on the other side, you could see, and then I took a boat that went on around the point to a little island called Diker Island, which is a large sea lion colony. My wife decided she didn't want to go back on the boat, so she did some shopping. So that was actually that more expensive than the boat ride. Top left is a picture of the sea lion colony. Bottom left is, I'm going to bastardize pronunciation, but Nisenberg Beach. And that is a very famous surfing area. Now, this time of the year we were there wasn't much surf going on and there wasn't many people around. It's kind of mid-September, which is basically, our fall, their early spring. So, top right, Simon's Town. That's where basically the South African Navy resides. So there's a couple ships in there, I think, in this picture. And Hope Town itself. Okay, eventually we did get down to the actual Cape. So the picture of the portrait type picture is about as far as I could walk safely. So that's about as far as you can get. You can walk up to the lighthouse, which I did, and my wife decided she was going to do more shopping. So she went to the shopping areas, the restaurants and so on. And of course, the obligatory picture with, so I didn't take this picture, but it was with my camera. So it does count, right? Just want to point out, it probably doesn't come across too much here, but the Cape Point, if you look at the top left, there's a baboon up there. So this was our first animal setting we got in there. He's up there watching, and then below he's climbing down the side. What they're looking for, and what our guide said, leave your backpacks in your car. They have discovered that most people have some goodies in their backpack. So they will grab that backpack right off your back if they can. Even leaving in the car is not safe either, because if they see it in the car, they will jump in the car. Then you got a bigger problem. Bottom right, something I did not know, is a South African ostrich. You can't really see the pictures. We were in the van, we're driving on this particular case. So it's through the window, but I didn't even know South Africans had their own ostrich. So this is not from Australia, it didn't swim over, it's actually native to South Africa. And the top one, you can't really tell in this picture, but that's a colony of penguins. So meet Larry, Curly, and Mo. They put on a nice little show for us. And this was coming back from the Cape. Kirstenbach National Botanical Gardens. There's a few people here I know like going to botanical gardens, so I can't comment. It is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and it is built as the most beautiful botanical gardens in the world. I can't comment on that, but they do have 22,000 different species of plants. So it takes you several hours to go through it. We didn't have several hours, but we did, take a few pictures. So this is the back of Table Mountain. If anyone's familiar with Table Mountain, that's the flat mountain you see in Cape Town. The couple walking, there's a couple that we joined up with. We went on this safari Africa, just my wife and I. So we weren't with a tour group or nothing like that. It was just the two of us. When we did the wine tour, it was just the two of us. It was a private wine tour. But on this one, we did what they call a small group tour. So it was just ourselves and another couple. So we went, so they were with us that day, nice couple. We went to the, I forget what it's called now. But anyway, this bird of paradise you're seeing here is a fairly rare one. It's got that yellow on it. And it's named after Nelson Mandela. Mandela. So it's called a Mandela's Gold Bird of Paradise. Last night in Cape Town, I've always told people, don't leave your cameras at home nighttime just because it's getting dark. Keep it around with you. So
What year were you there?
Oh, sorry, I thought I said it earlier, but 2019. So just before COVID.
Yeah, I went in 14, that Parisville wasn't there.
Wasn't there. Lots of great restaurants, lots of great nightlife. And you know, the thing about it is I don't think I mentioned, you know, I said it was 80 rugby fields, 150 football. It is a secured area. So it is a gate to get in. So it's like going into a gated community. So you can walk around at nighttime and not have any fear. I mean, some of the areas in Cape Town, you gotta be careful with the apartheid, I don't know, colored areas, the black areas, the white areas, you gotta be careful. But here, you don't have to worry about it. Okay. Next morning, we got the little cloud over the Table Mountains. You can't see it, but I got lucky when we took off from the airport. So we're flying north now, and a commercial plane. And this picture I took out of the window, but that's the DNA Harvard from the air. So where were we going? If you're a member in my itinerary, we're going up to the Okavango Delta in Botswana. That is another UNESCO World Heritage Site. And it is basically a big inland delta. So Botswana is just north of South Africa. So you can see on our map here, we flew into Man, which is over here. Whoops. Don't push the wrong button. On a commercial flight. And then we took a little small charter flight into the delta itself. So that one picture, it's hard to see in this one, but there's a few elephants down by the water there. So as we're flying over the delta. So where were we going? We were going to a camp called Tubu Tree Camp. That is over here on the west side. And you can see in this picture it's saying there's water and that there, but no, we're late in the dry season, so it's fairly dried up. So you can see around a small plain, dirt runway. Hard to see, but there is a little Jeep up here in the middle. He will not land if the Jeep is not there because he will communicate with them. Because they got to make sure that the runway is clear of animals. You know, the elephants will come out. Like I said, they will come out. So is our welcoming committee. So the elephant is there. You can see the little baby calf is kind of hiding behind mama, a little bit shy. On the bottom right is a stenbok. Stenbok are what they call it pygmy antelopes. There's lots of different antelopes in Africa. This guy is only about knee high. So a little tiny guy. And you can see the terminal building. I had a tough time getting that one into a single frame. That's their big terminal. And then the welcoming committee at our lodge. So the bottom picture, that's the entire staff coming up to meet us with drinks in hand for us as well. Welcomes back. That's something we get used to and all our safari stops. Every time we went out for a safari, whether just 2-3 hours or whatever, when we came back, we got to walk them back. And they always had drinks for us. And that was true of all our safari stops. If you notice, this is up on stilts, the tent we were in, because in the wet season, of course, that's all a flooded area. We have a mosquito net and we have a canvas roof and canvas sides. In Botswana, you are in tents. But you can see they're pretty nice tents. They're really roughing it. I didn't get a good picture, but this is an outdoor shower. And you will see that every place you went had outdoor showers. Open bar and so on. See our walkway here on the bottom right. One of the things that you cannot do is that before sunrise and after sunset, you do not, and they give you an orientation on this, you do not walk back to the main line by yourself. You phone and get a guide to come up and get you. There are wild animals in Africa. One night we were walking back and the guy was with us, of course, and on this walkway we had a leopard just lying there. So you don't want to walk into them in the middle. Mosquito nets up around the beds. All the rooms have mosquito nets, all our stops. We have prepared to see lots of mosquitoes. We took the malaria pills with us and everything else, if everyone was familiar with that. You know, we got our shots before we went over. Getting in and out of bed in the mosquito nets was a challenge in itself, especially when you got to get up in the middle of the night, trying to find your way back and get into bed. But we never saw one mosquito the whole time. Not one. And yet I think it's because it's late in the dry season. So finally we get to go to our first safari. our guide, TJ. We're still friends with, actually, she came over to a US a year or two ago, and we met up with her again. So we always asked us before we went out, and this was an afternoon safari. We got there a couple hours earlier in the day from Cape Town for our first afternoon. We went out. So what do you want to see? She asked. Well, the big five. Okay, we can work on that, but we haven't seen leopards in the last couple of weeks. So we get out, we saw a couple little elephants, and then we saw right up in the tree, leopards. I guess they're back. It even managed to open his eyes a little bit for me. This is a couple hours now before sunset, when we basically start our safaris. A couple hours before sunset, and you go for an hour afterwards. So a couple hours later, we met up with him again. This time he's feeding on supper. It's a supper time for him, so he's feeding on a zebra. TJ basically said that the leopard did not take down the zebra. The zebra is just too big. A full-grown zebra is too big for a single leopard to bring down, and they don't run in packs anyway, around like the lions. So he's trying to, someone else took the leopard down, or just died of old age, which does happen over there as well. But anyway, that was close to sunset, so even the leopards enjoy sunsets. So it looks like he's just, amazed with the sunset. And that's one thing we did have, was really, really beautiful sunsets every single night. Sunrises were gorgeous every single morning. So we got the leopard walking away, and we got the giraffe behind the trees, and then I silhouetted the giraffe as well.
Part of the reason they have such beautiful sunrise and sunset, you're actually up to see them.
That does help. You are 100% correct. The other reason is too, and you can see the sun is still fairly high in the sky. Late in the dry season, it's fairly dusty. So another camera tip, if you can, don't change lenses. There is dust in the air. We didn't really affect us. My wife is very susceptible to having dust and so on. But there is dust in the air. Like this guy, I brought 2 camera bodies, and I had 2 different lenses on it. So one wide angle, one telephoto. And I kind of kept with that, not changing lenses. It does get dusty. You will get a lot of shots taken after sunset. So you got very, very low light. So this is a couple around the watering hole. We got some elephants coming down the water hole. We got a leopard, a couple impellas, and giraffes. And then kind of last light of the night. Next morning you get up and we found our leopard again, but I think it was trying to hide. It looked like it was trying to hide behind some of the trees. You can see they almost blend in, though. It's kind of nice. Go around, we found some impala. Now this is impala, but the same size as a full-size deer we find here in North America, a white-tailed deer, that kind of size. Couple elephants, a mama and the baby. Fields of Cape buffalo. We got close to a lot of animals. The Cape buffalo we didn't get too close to. They are one of the big 5, and the reason why they're one of the big 5, they are very, very aggressive. And they will attack for just because they can. So we did keep our distance with them. Zebras, or as I was corrected over there, Canadians, we say Z, British says Z, Americans it's Z. Well, even as a Canadian, I say zebra, but I got corrected over there. No, they're not zebras, they're zebras. So every time I said zebra, I got corrected. So, right. Warthogs. So I think Pumbaa from the Lion King. Giraffes, lots and lots of giraffes in the area we were at. A diker. Now this is another one of the pygmy antelopes. So yeah, it's only a couple of feet high. So we saw the stenbok, we saw the diker. The other one that's over there, I don't have any pictures in this presentation, is a dictic. And they are another small antelope as well. But besides the animals, and actually one thing I gotta mention, we just saw 8 animals that I just flipped through very, very quickly. That was in the first hour and a half. Okay. And I didn't even talk about the time we spent with the lions. We're gonna talk about that in a few minutes here. But it's just wherever you go, it's just as soon as you turn your head, another group of animals.
When you said these are only a couple feet tall?
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, there are little guys.
Hard to imagine.
Yeah. Well, this is one disadvantage of being in the Jeep too, with a tour we were on, is that we had to stay in the Jeep. If you do take a photography tour, chances are you could probably get out of the Jeep and lie on the ground and get some interesting pictures where you're looking up at the animals as opposed to looking down. So we are looking down at the animals most part. But besides the animals, great scenery. So you need your wide angle lens as well. Lots of good scenery shots. Sunrises and sunsets, I cannot tell you how beautiful they were every single day. It was always great. You will see a common theme, drinks and snacks. But drinks at sunset, snacks, so they always brought something, you know. That's our guide there, so tuba tree. You can see the Jeep. We were the only two on that Jeep, so we had the entire Jeep to ourselves the whole time. So we didn't have to worry about ever getting the middle seat. On private reserves, they guarantee you're not going to ever have the middle seat. You know, but where if you go into national parks, you could get stuck in the middle seat, and yeah, it's not so much fun there. Sometimes you go out in the morning and you don't go back. You stay out for lunch and drinks. So they have a little bar set up, they have picnic tables set up, and you just kind of stay out for the day. Sometimes you go back, sometimes you stay out. African painted dogs. One morning these guys just came back from a hunt. Their faces were all bloody, and there's probably about 40 of them. And we just sat right in the middle, you know, all around us in the Jeep. So we just pulled right into the middle of all of them. That was fascinating. Lions. One night we were sitting around, and again, TJ asked, "What do you want to see?" I said, "Well, we haven't seen a male lion yet, but this time we had seen some female lions, but we hadn't seen a male lion. So I'd like to see a male lion." So first thing the next morning, very first thing we saw, male lions. She knew where they were. She just had to get us. One thing I found fascinating is that they will sniff the ground, and then they actually will analyze by the use of a Jacobson organ. Anyone ever hear of that? Okay, some animals have this, and it's an organ that's in the roof of their mouth. So the way it was explained to me is they can taste the smells. In other words, they can really figure out the pheromones and do the specific chemical signals that are there to distinguish them from prey, from rivals, or potential mates. So what they'll do is they'll sniff the ground, and then they do what's called a flamen response, where they'll pull that scent over that organ in the roof of their mouth. So it looks like he's snarling at you here, but no, he's just sniffing the ground. He's checking out that whatever animal kind of just urinated there, he's trying to figure out what it is. You do get up close and personal. This one is going, this is another Jeep. You can see there's only two people in that Jeep as well. They were at a different camp. They weren't at our camp. And speaking of that, I mean, our camp Tuba Tree only had 5 tents. And that's very, very typical of most of these private reserves. 5, 6 tents, that's all you're going to see. So they were at a different location. We kind of met up with them. Anyway, the lion's trying to get in the shade, because he wants to use the shade of the Jeep to relax. The driver or the guide will move away and did move away. They don't want the lions to get in the habit of doing that. But they do get quite close and personal. Sometimes they'll block the bridge. So we do have a little bit of water area here, but they just block it. So this other Jeep, the same Jeep again, is trying to get over. But 2 female lions now are just lazing around, you know, blocking the bridge. Sometimes they just lie around in the trees. Lions are not normally tree climbers, but this case they are up in the trees and just lying there, and kind of they sleep for about 23 hours out of the day, I think, except when they're not eating. And then there's the story of Lucky. So the story of Lucky begins by the water hole. So this is one of the water holes we had here. You can see we got some crocodiles. Picture on the top left, top right. A couple of elephants, baboons, and a crocodile. They're all kind of peacefully just lying around together. This is where you get most of your shots again. These are later at night, lion coming down for a drink of water. Mama and her two kids, so one is more of a juvenile teenager type elephant and one fairly young. But these guys, so it's Mama and her three cubs. So the very first morning we go out and we go down to the water hole. And there is the three cubs feeding on that zebra. Remember that zebra we talked about with the leopard? Well, maybe the lion took that zebra down. Anyway, the lions claimed that zebra. So Mama was sitting off to the side. The three cubs were eating. And what does the guy do? Parks right between Mama and the cubs. Now, I'm from Alberta, and I do know when you go out hiking and you run into Mama bear and her cubs, do not get between them if you want to live. You will not come out of there unscathed. But they just parked right between them. So Mama had no view of her cubs anymore. She didn't care. She just ignored us totally. They get so habitualized to the Jeeps that they don't even look at you half the time. You know, you're not prey, you don't bother them, so they just kind of ignore you. Which is why you can get up so close and personal. So we spent, 3 or 4 days, every morning we go there, watching the lions play. And they were having fun. Watching them eating the zebra was slowly disappearing. Our second last morning, we were leaving this area with the lions and that, and we saw a group of zebras being followed by a bunch of donkeys. Well, my wife had to go to the bathroom. So we took off to find the bathroom. Now, the bathroom is never very far away. It's behind the left wheel, if you're ever looking for the bathroom in a Jeep. So, but she wouldn't look for a safe place where we could get out. As soon as we got out, actually, I got to tell you another story because the night before, TJ, our guide, asked, well, what do I want to see? Okay? I got to see, we're working on the big 5. I got to see the male elephant or the male lion. And I said, well, I'd like to see a kill. In fact, life, circle of life and all that. My wife didn't really want to. Anyway, as soon as we got out of the Jeep, or she got out of the Jeep, the walkie-talkies from the lion was stalking another animal. Okay, she hops back in, foregoing her bathroom break, and we will go back to where the stalking was going on. And this is what we found. The lion had one of the donkeys by the neck. And we got there, now how long it had, probably a couple of minutes, but we got there and she held on to this donkey for a good couple of minutes while we were there. And then following around from top left to top right, she just gently laid that donkey back down. I just couldn't believe how gently she laid it down. Then she just stood there looking over the donkey for another couple of minutes, making sure that donkey was, not going to get back up. Then the bottom left, the lion goes back between our Jeeps. Now there's two Jeeps. They're the one that had original radio, and just sat there in the shade watching the donkey, and finally wandered off. Now, lions are very opportunistic. This lion has been feeding on that zebra for the last 3 or 4 days. It's probably not hungry, but it saw an opportunity. So it goes out and makes the kill. It will come back, probably with its cubs later. It knows where the donkey is, so he will come back later. But he was looking at this donkey the whole time. Wait a minute, this donkey looks like it's moving. TJ, no, it's just the final death throes. This lion is an experienced killer. He's not going to leave the donkey. Why? I said, no, this donkey is moving. This donkey is moving. A few minutes later, it's sitting up. And several minutes later, it's standing up. So this was one morning. Later that night, we go back to the watering hole. And there's Lucky. Now you know why we call it Lucky. It's braying for its mama, but mama's long gone now. So and we just say, Lucky, be quiet. The lions are still there. The lions are only maybe 100 yards away. No, it's brain. Anyway, the long story here is that, the next morning, we didn't get to see it, but some of the other guys said, no, the donkey was back with its family. And that afternoon, which was our last day, the guides went out, rounded up all the donkeys and brought them back to the village. These donkeys escaped from the village, so that's why they were easy to raid, the nearby village. So, I did thank TJ for staging this kill, and no animals were hurt in the production. Meanwhile, the cleanup crew came for the zebra. So the hyenas, spotted hyenas, the vultures and so on, and they basically cleaned that up. Someone mentioned termite nests earlier. I heard someone talking, but in the background there you can see one of the termite nests. These things get quite large. They can be 6 feet high. Lots of great scenery, lots of elephants. One of my favorite pictures is the little one taking the foot from Mama. And off to our next stop. So that's the plane that brought us in, and that's the plane that's taken us back. And there's a couple of scenes from over the Delta. So you can see some wet spots and dry spots, and there's a couple of spots that look really, really green. I was thinking, this looks like a golf course, but yeah, no, they're just some green areas. So where were we going? For our second stop, we were going on the Chobe River. The Chobe River is basically the boundary between Botswana and Namibia. So it's up in the northeast corner of Botswana now. So we already had a passport stamp going into Botswana earlier. We flew into Lemon. Now we're flying into Kasane, which is over here. So the very first thing we did is we got picked up at the airport. And that's one thing I got to mention too. We, all our transfers, everything else was all arranged before we went. And everywhere we stopped, the drivers were always there to pick us up and move us around. So that was always just like clockwork. Anyway, they brought us down to the river. We got on a little boat. They brought us across the river. And Gail probably had to do this as well. They throw you out of the boat, and in this broken English, basically tells us we got to walk up this hill to get our Namibia passport stamped. So we're out in the middle of nowhere, and we're walking up this hill and going further out into the middle of nowhere. And then we're just Kathy and I, just my wife and I. Hey, wait a minute. We're in the middle of Africa. It's wild animals. We're just going up this hill. But eventually we had to get to the top of the hill. We got our passport stamped in this little shack that was there. You probably went to the same one, Gail, and yeah, in the Chobe River. But you had a group of people. Yeah. Anyway, that was our home for the next 4 days. So you saw the boat that Gail was on. This is a little bit smaller. Chobe Princess. There's actually 3 boats that travel together. There's only 4 cabins on the first deck and 1 cabin on the top. And we got lucky. We got the top deck only because there was a group of 4 other couples that were there. They were traveling together, so they were all kept together, and we got the top. But it was kind of nice having it. Now we got a different experience, which is kind of nice. We get off on these little boats and we go up and down the river. But now you're looking up at the animals. So it's just a totally different perspective. Remember I said before, in the Jeeps you're kind of looking down, and now we're looking up. This guy, I think, was definitely eyeing me. I was hoping he would take off to the Antellas instead. It was fun watching the animals coming down. So a couple more baboons coming down for drinks on the water edge. So you're out in the boat, so you just get to watch them come down. The elephants. Sunset. And then more into the blue hours. So yeah, we're out there quite late sometimes. We've been out till midnight a few nights. You get the hippos on land, and there's always a bird around. Every time they scuff in the grass, their insects are coming up and so on. So the birds are grabbing all the insects that get moved around, or flies or whatever. But these guys can move fast when they want. We did see one chase a crocodile, and when they want to move, they can move in the water. And yet if you look closely, you can see another bird called an oxpecker is checking out, it's the hippo's ears. So these oxpeckers are around on all the large animals, the Cape buffalo and so on. Then they'll pick off the different insects and mites and everything else that they might get. So he gets his ears cleaned and everything else, which is kind of nice. So the birds do have a big role. Some more birds. Helmeted guinea fowl, the bottom is a sandpiper. And then these are geese, but not Canadian geese, these are Egyptian geese. And they were doing a mating dance, so it's kind of fun to watch. African spoonbill. And the black wing stilt. Giant kingfisher. And some other form of kingfisher, and I don't remember the exact species anymore. African darter, sometimes called a snake bird. You can see how long the neck is. You can see in the bottom right how he's turning his head right around. They have a very long neck and they will swim in the river looking for a fish. But when they're swimming, their body is totally underwater and just ahead. So they look like a snake swimming in the water. Who thinks this is an American bald eagle? This is a African fish eagle. Very similar looking bird, obviously. And one that's got a fish there is pulling away.
You caught it, the last picture of the catching, that was
Yeah.
the fish?
It looks like some sort of catfish or something. You can't tell exactly what it is, but I don't know, maybe it's upside down on the bottom part of the fish. A hawk, lesser jacana. Every day we would go and I know Gail knows who this is. There's a little opening, little cliff, and you see the animals coming down from the top of the hill to this little clearing. One day we saw this group of elephants coming down. And as they got to the top, they noticed there was 2 male elephants down already having a drink. So I don't know what they were sensing, but every time they would walk and then sense something, and their feet could be right in the air, and you stop dead. And then put down, take a couple more steps, and then stop again. So they're sensing something for the male elephant. Most times they stop quite good. Every once in a while they have a collision. The little ones weren't paying attention. Eventually, though, they did get down, got their drink, and got a new coating of sand. They would always throw sand over the back just to keep themselves cool. But you notice the little one, how he puts his trunk in the water. You see his water is pretty wet. But one of the things you got to watch out for going in the water there is these guys. So it's a Nile crocodile. These things get quite large. And they can do some serious damage to the little ones. One at the bottom right there is actually dug a hole and is laying eggs. This is quite late at night. The other thing I had fun with was the baboons. They Dad would sit around watching the sunrise or sunset and whatever, and the kids would always get into trouble. And Mom was the one that had to discipline them. But they're just fun to watch, and they're human characteristics to them. Quite interesting. Someone's telling someone a secret. They pose for portraits. But you gotta be careful, these guys posing for portraits. He was a long ways away. This was a very long lens, so he was up on the bank, so I had no other words. They come down to have a drink as well. So you notice the oxpecker in the middle of the center one there. The oxpecker is in the center of his forehead. Next picture I didn't even know I got till I saw later, but Cape buffalo's having a drink and the oxpecker says, "Oh, I'm here, I'd like to have a drink too." Elephants swimming across the river, we saw this constantly, several times a day. They would go from the top picture there you see is Botswana, down to the Namibia side on the bottom picture. They did not have to get their passports stamped.
What's on the head of that one elephant?
It's just dry,
Oh.
so it didn't go underwater till, so it's got a dry spot. All the other ones obviously put their head totally underwater. And you can see the third one back is a little one swimming across as well. One afternoon sitting on the boat, we got to see the little one being trained to swim. They don't naturally swim. So the couple mamas are out there, and remember, there's no males in the herd, right? The males are kind of lone animals and they only come in for mating season. But they were probably 100 yards away or so, and the boat was parked, so this wasn't one of our safaris. So we not a great picture, but you can see the little one there is learning how to swim, and the mama was supporting the little one, teaching him. Chobe area, lots and lots of elephants. Most times they use the trunk for drinking. This other little one decided, nah, I'm gonna put my water, my mouth right in the water. Just love taking pictures of the little guys. More sunset cruises and so on. Our last morning there, this is now my wife's birthday, so we had champagne breakfast. And they sang happy birthday to her. This, I don't know how they got this, they did this, I didn't arrange it, it was just kind of nice. And like I said, we had timed this to be in Victoria Falls for her birthday, so it's I can't say the native language, but smoke that thunders. It is another UNESCO World Heritage Site, and it is between Zimbabwe and Zambia on the Zambezi River. Check into our hotel, and we had another bottle of champagne waiting. Yeah, I don't know where it came from. My daughter was our kind of a travel agent as well. So we think she arranged it, but she won't admit to it. So after a couple bottles of champagne, we went to the dinner in Boma, the jump show. But we ate worms. I think so we got a certificate saying we ate Mopane worms, M-O-P-A-N-E. They call them worms, but they're actually not worms. They're about a 2-inch long caterpillar. And they are a great source of protein. So in rural Africa and Botswana, they do eat a lot of them. It's kind of one of the things they eat. I mentioned that Zimbabwe was conservation. Gail had stayed at the elephant sanctuary, if I remember correctly, where they're looking after the elephants and so on. We didn't get the elephants, we got the vultures. Victoria Falls Safari Club is where we stayed, and they do feeding time for the vultures. And they are a necessary part of the cleanup crew we saw earlier. So there's a blind up there on the top left picture that we could have went out to during feeding time, but we were never around. We had too many other things lined up, so we didn't get a chance to actually see it. But these hang around all day long, so from our balcony, we just took some of these pictures.
Is this one with, oh, you back it up one or no? Okay, the one with the long beak, is that also a vulture?
Yeah, that's a stork.
Oh, stork.
Yeah. Brings the babies. Not the same stork, there's a different kind of stork, but yes, they are a vulture, and they are the will eat carrion, which is the dead meat, right? So. Just a couple quick scenes around Victoria Falls, nothing too exciting. One of the things I always do when I go into an area where they got signage and that, I'll take pictures of all the signs. Sometimes they're falling backwards, sometimes they're sideways, sometimes whatever. So I just zoom out a little bit and make sure I got lots of room on the pictures, then use a transform utility in Lightroom, straighten them all up, change the perspective so they're nice and square and everything else. So that's kind of what I always do. I just wanted to show you that, kind of a little trick that I do. I don't have time to read all the stuff, so take pictures and square them all up later. So I'm not going to bore you with the slides. Well, that one I want to show you, I zoomed in a little bit, and you can see all the different station numbers. So you can see where we started. Whoops, sorry. We start here and we walk in, and they got all these different station numbers. I probably didn't spell it out, but the waterfalls itself is about a mile wide. Is a very, very wide waterfall. So we start down here at number one, which is the Devil's Cataract. Then you come in, you go out, you come in, you go out. So we'll explain that in a second. So we go down. There's a statue of Livingston. Dr. Livingston, I presume. We've all heard that statement before. This is where Livingston and Cecil Rose first met. And that's where the saying came from. And Cecil Rose basically said Dr. Livingston. People are familiar, I think, with Cecil Rhodes. This whole area was called Rhodesia, named after Cecil Rhodes. They tried to put a roadway in from Cairo to rail line, I guess, from Cairo to Cape Town. So one of the bridges we supposed, I think we'll see later, is you put in. But anyway, it was all Rhodesia, then it split into South and North Rhodesia. Sorry, my voice is gone. And then eventually back to Zimbabwe and Zambia, which is what it's called today. So anyway, the first stop was Devil's Cataract. So that's all you can see. You can't see nothing else. You go out, you come back to another area, and you see another little bit of the falls. You walk along to another station, now you see another little bit of the falls. The bottom left, you can see a whole bunch is dry, it's not flowing, because yeah, we're late in the dry season. But earlier on, and you see my wife, she's actually getting wet from the spray. So one side you're getting wet, the other side is still dry. Another way to see the falls is you can see these guys up there. Well, that's them over here. So they're right on top of the falls. So they're on the Zambia side. And go up there, you can see totally different view. But the best way to see the falls is from the helicopter. So we did do a helicopter ride that went out around the falls, looped around a few times. Yeah, there's the bridge there, so that connects. So the Cecil Rose Bridge. One side of the gorge is Zambia, the other side of the gorge is Zimbabwe. Of course, the obligatory sunset cruise. Yeah, beautiful sunsets. I still can't emphasize them enough. Off to our final safari stop. How's our time going? Okay, still. This is our one luxury thing. We kind of up the ante on this one a little bit. So this is Sabi Sands is just outside Kruger National Park. So it borders Kruger National Park in South Africa. So we basically left early in the morning, drove over to Zambia, to Livingston, took a plane from Livingston down to Johannesburg, waited around there for a little bit, then took another plane from Johannesburg over to Nesbeth, and then we had a 2-hour drive up to the Sabi Sands Game Reserve. And you see in here, these are all the different camps. There's like 24 different camps there. Each one is only 5 or 6 different huts. And Sabi Sands is home to the infamous Sabi Sands Napogo Lion Coalition. Anyone ever heard of them? Well, meet Mr. T. This is the one picture that's not mine. If anyone's interested in this, there's a great documentary on YouTube, the Brothers in Blood, the Lions of Sabi Sands. They were a pretty famous group of 6 lions, 6 males that took over the entire area. They killed every other male lion for hundreds of miles around. Vicious, cubs, everything. So I mean, they didn't left anything. And it's quite a documentary on this, about an hour and a half long. So all the lions that we saw on our trip, and we'll see quite a few of them here, were all direct descendants of these guys. But I just love Mr. T here with the, you know why he got that called Mr. T, right? So, like I said, a pretty nice room we have there. These are not canvas sides anymore or whatever, so. And you will see that, yeah, over here, outdoor showers. They love their outdoor showers. So we had a long trip that day. We didn't get there in time for the afternoon safari, but they did have a bottle of champagne on ice. Seemed to be an ongoing theme here. And just in time for the boma. The boma over there is called the barbecue. So this is the area where we're setting up. So you can see there's only about 18 chairs there. This is the entire camp is going to be eating there. Not just the guests, but also the guides. The guides also always eat dinner with you as well. So you can have chats with them at night or what, what you plan on doing the next day and so on. So this was all of the people. So back to the lions eating. This time they're dining on kudu. I said one advantage is you can go off road with your private. Well, one disadvantage is you might get stuck. You also notice there's only 2 seats across in this one. Yeah, they took out the center seat and they put in a little bench where they got rain jackets, binoculars, and everything else for you. But anyway, while he was jacking up and trying to get on and stuck, he basically did suggest there's a swimming hole right next by if I want to go visit and have a swim. Well, that was a hard task. The herons did like it, but
Yeah, well.
antelopes, I mentioned before, lots of different antelopes. Now, antelopes are a distant cousin of the deer. They are a different family from the North American deer. And there's over like 71 different species of antelope in Africa. So there's a couple here on the top right, we got the female Naya. Bottom or top left, we got the impala. Bottom left, a waterbuck. And bottom right, a wildebeest. They're all antelope families. Few more different ones, waterbucks, some steenbocks, and a greater kudu. We did eat a lot of kudu. One of the things you do get in the safari camps is you are eating the bushmeat, what they call it. So you, but you do not want to be an antelope in Africa. High up in the tree, we found this guy. Nearby, we found the owner. So meet Raven. Raven is a 2-year-old leopard that was not abandoned, but orphaned at a very young age. His mother was killed or whatever. Now on the reserve, they do not interfere with the animals. They just, whatever happens, happens. But they do watch the animals, they do name the animals, they got pictures of all the animals, so they know what they're doing. Anyway, while we're visiting with Raven and having a nice little chat with him, we heard a crash and down came the antelope, and this guy claimed the antelope. That's a spotted hyena. So you go out every day for your safaris and that, but the afternoons, you see we got a nice big deck there, and you can see up here you got a pathway in the river. Well, this is what we see every day. So various animals are coming down, some antelope, baboons. You can just sit in your back deck, have a drink, watch the animals. We got top left, the waterbuck. Top right is a saddle-billed stork, so another stork for your earth. Some baboons and some nayas. We also had our daily parade of elephants along it. So every day they would parade by. This bottom picture is a panorama of 4 shots I took. It's the first time normally I always do panoramas in landscape and so on. I took this and I didn't realize that these animals are moving. They didn't quite line up anymore. So I had lots of fun stitching them together. I did eventually do it. Sometimes they get quite close. And they come right up. Even drinking water right out of our hot tub while we're sitting there. Speaking of close, we do get up close and personal with the animals in South Africa. So as Chris, our tracker, we're just sitting in a herd of rhinos or giraffes crossing by. So you don't need long lenses most times.
Right.
And yeah, quite close to all these animals. We sat in this herd of rhinos, and one of the things that the guides are basically always in radio contact with other guides. So whenever they see something happening, like I talked about the kill that was going on with the donkey, they radio, say, okay, we just found this, or this is happening over here. So they'll let the other guides know. They used to, when you see rhinos, they used to come up with another name, call it, okay, we just saw some exotic animal or whatever. They wouldn't actually use the word rhinoceros over the radios. Now they even got to the point where they don't even say that. So if they come up on a herd of rhinos, radio silence. Reason being poachers. Poachers are in the area. They also have a GPS block. So none of my pictures that were taken in the Savvy Sense have the GPS locator. I don't know how they did it, but I don't have the GPS location on any of my pictures that were taken in Savvy Sense. Whereas all the other safaris I did. Which I found very interesting, but they're very, very protective of the rhinos for obvious reasons. One of the rhinos we saw did have a bullet, got hit by the horn, didn't kill the animal, but probably too far away or whatever. But poachers are still a problem, and they're all trying to get the horn, which is basically no different than your fingernails. So they think it's an aphrodisiac. Just go chew on your fingernails. It's going to do the same thing. But we do get, like I said, quite close to all these guys. So there's Chris just on front, and we did have an elephant come at us one day. He kind of reared up a little bit and looked like he was going to attack, and Chris just threw his arms up in the air and made himself look big. I would have collared and ran away, but the elephant just backed down. Kind of surprised. Our last night at Savvy Sands, we were watching the elephants again. It was kind of, it was a daily ritual. You can see the ones in the bottom, just kind of lying around. They're had enough to eat. They're feeding on kudu or something here now. Off in the distance, we had Chris, our tracker, had noticed the leopard. Way up. This is a couple 100 yards away. I zoomed up on them in the top left picture. It didn't see the lions at first, but then all of a sudden it saw the lions and it squealed. It wasn't a roar, it was just a squeal. And it kind of bowed down. Well, that got everyone's attention. Except for one guy that's really suffering from the meat sweats, I think. So they're all paying attention to the leopard now. So I call this one the Watchers. I think, Gail, you almost have the identical picture. Picture I entered into the Date Festival a few years ago. I converted to black and white. And you see all the guides are looking away from the line. So I call it, where is the line? So now you know why they're looking away. They're all looking at that leopard. So the secret's that most of them were looking at the leopard. This one I think was looking at me though. And you can't forget about Zazu. So from the Lion King, it's the southern yellow-billed hornbill. So what is safari really like? Basically, you're going to be up an hour and a half or so before sunrise. When we were there, sunrise was around 6 o'clock, sunset was at 6:30. So you're out in the field by 5 o'clock. So you get a wake-up call at 4:30, about half hour before. Go grab a coffee, maybe a quick Danish or something like that. So no real big breakfast. Then you're out there for about 3 to 4 hours. The brochure said 3 hours. We were never, ever back in 3 hours. It's always at least 4 hours and watching. Then you come back to camp basically and you get a full breakfast and so on. Or you have breakfast in the bush. Afternoons, downtime basically from 10 to about 3. You can do whatever. Always something happening. I showed you pictures when we sat in the back deck and watched the animals going by. The very first day I was there, I really wanted to sleep, still trying to get over some jet lag. And that was in the tent that had the canvas roof and canvas sides. So I wanted to go have a nap. Baboons decided they were going to use my roof as a trampoline. So I'm lying there and said, no, I'm worried these guys are going to bust through because there's 2 or 3 of them just jumping. So I went back to the main lodge and had a few drinks. So. Yeah, gorgeous sunsets. So basically from 2 hours before sunset, Well, 3 o'clock, you go for afternoon tea. Well, that just means drinks and a snack. So maybe a beer or maybe tea, whatever you decide. Well, 4 o'clock, you're on the road again till about 7:30, couple hours before sunset. And then you return to camp, get cleaned up or whatever, dinner with everyone. Remember, everyone sort of sits at the same table, sit around the campfire, return to your room. And night drives, they also have night drives, and we did a couple night drives. Don't have many pictures of those because, well, they're dark. One picture there of the leopard is from camera people in the room. It was my maximum 450 millimeters, and I slightly cropped it. 1/40th of a second, so you know that's pretty slow shutter speed with a big lens. But look at the ISO, my max 102,400, and I still had to push the exposure in Lightroom. Very early mornings. So I talked about the you're up out hour before sunrise. So this is the lions feeding on the zebra. When we first get there in the morning, it's dark. I mean, the lights you're seeing there now from the headlights from the Jeep. So you're up well before sunset, staying out till midnight. So that's why we needed this one. Final stop, we went off to Zero Bengura Island, which is Mozambique, for some much needed rest. It's a little island. I got lucky on this thing, and we were landing in Villancudus on a commercial plane, and I took these pictures of the islands, not realizing that this was the island we were going to. So you can basically see it's just a sandbar out in the middle of the Indian Ocean. Took a helicopter over to it. Beautiful little area. I'm gonna flip through these, but you can see the his and her now outdoor showers. So we're coming up in the world, but still everything is outdoors. Little hot tub. We got our own little hut. All the huts are separated from each other. Our own little hot tub, own little cabana out on the beach. Need I say more? Yeah, it is a sandbar, so I walked out. I don't know how far out I am. The water's probably not much more than halfway down my shins, right? So just a beautiful, beautiful quiet spot. He's Kathy in the cabana on the top right, and someone else out having lunch. You just basically order up whatever you want. It's an all inclusive. I mean, and that's the other thing too. All these places were all inclusive. So your meals, your drinks, whatever you want, it's all provided. So you just phone up people and say, hey, I want to have lunch on the beach, and they'll bring out whatever you want. So, or you can go into the restaurant. First night there, after our champagne, they decided that they're going to have a gin tasting gin tasting party, I guess. Well, we had the kids from the local school doing a song and dance and drum routine and everything else. These kids, they're amazing. I mean, they don't speak any English or anything. Portuguese is the official language of Mozambique. They do have about 40 other African dialects, Swahili, the Bantu languages, and so on. But this resort we were at sponsors their school. So from about grade 1 up to about grade 9, they stay on the island here, and they're into these one-room schools, basically. So we did get a tour of that. No windows in there, those are window openings. There's no glass, there's no nothing. These people don't have much, literally living in grass huts still. The guy that was driving us around, that's his wife there with his child, and she's doing laundry in the little creek. And yeah, they don't speak English, but one night my wife and I were out taking some pictures using the time released on the camera. We're just doing some pictures for our Christmas cards or whatever. These kids were, amazed at what we're doing. They couldn't figure it out. So we invited them over, and we somehow communicated with them. They couldn't, can't speak English. But I get a kick out of the Adidas shirt too. I mean, they have nothing, but yet they somehow got the Adidas one. But once they get to grade 9, they do end up going back to the mainland. So they'll go back to the mainland for school. So they'll travel back and forth. But the only exercise I got, that's our guide, they were leading me up to the top of the dunes. So I went out one day for a long walk up to the top of the dunes, and you got some pictures. Most days though, was just watching the boats coming in from fishing. Or watching them fish at night, at sunsets. Dinners on the beach or near the beach. Sunset cruises. And this is in a dhow, a DHOW, which is a small little wooden sailboat. It's the Indian name is dhow, because remember we were in the Indian Ocean now. And it only holds 2 or 3 people, that's the max, that's it. So that's another one out there. I'm taking this picture from the boat I'm in, but that's another boat out there to give you an idea. Or just lounging around our little pool. Finally, we had to take the helicopter and head back. So what did we do? It was 6 countries, 24 days, 11 separate plane rides, 4 days on a boat, 3 helicopter rides, 2 long land excursions. I didn't even talk about those. 18-day safaris, 2 night safaris until midnight. 34 different mammals, including the big 5 I got pictures of. Sounds like a lot until I looked at Botswana. Botswana has over 350 mammals. So I only got less than 10%. 49 different birds I took pictures of. 1 very large reptile, the crocodile. And I basically got 48 spectacular sunrise and sunset. And over 16,000 pictures. It's the first time I was intimidated when I got home and put those on. How do I go through all these? Because I didn't do any pre-processing while I was over there. So that's the big 5. And next month we have Jeff with the Northwest Passage.
Thank you.
Any questions, comments?
Oh, Glenn, that was excellent. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Glenn. Wonderful.
What kind of foods did you eat there?
What kind of foods did I eat? In Mozambique, basically very American type food, and was good to get it. Basically on the safaris, bushmeat every day. Worms one day, we showed you that. At the Boma dinner, the Boma and drum dance, they had a huge barbecue there. Any kind of antelope that's in Africa, I think they were serving that night. It was amazing to go to. You could, if you didn't want to eat that, you could just basically tell them beforehand that you don't want that, you want a regular steak or you want a regular vegetarian dish or whatever it is you want. They would prepare whatever you want. But most times you would have to let them know ahead of time, before you even arrive. Otherwise, you're going to be eating in the safaris, in our case, bushmeat most nights. And it was good. I enjoyed it.
Were the big caterpillars alive or cooked or what?
Sorry?
Were the caterpillars
The
alive?
caterpillars were cooked. Yes. I don't think I could have done it, even with all the champagne I had that day. I don't think I could have done it. If they started moving around my mouth, they would have been out.
You said you had 2 lenses. What were they?
I brought 3 lenses, actually. I brought 2 camera bodies. I had myself covered from 24 millimeters up to 675. Now, I said 2 lenses. I only had 2 camera bodies, so I could only have 2 lenses on at any given point in time. But I did have myself covered all the way up. So it depends. I use all of it. I mean, I did have some shots at 24 millimeters, and I had some shots at 675. It just depends on where the animals were. So, if you're ever going, what lenses do you bring? Everything you got.
Weight's sometimes the biggest issue, though.
Weight is a huge issue. If you're going on any of these smaller safaris, if you go into Cape Town, no problem. Going in on a big plane. If you're going out into the bush, into Okavango Delta or somewhere else, you're on a small plane. Now, we did our dealings through a company called Wilderness Air. That plane I showed you earlier is from Wilderness Air. That's their smallest plane that they will use. So you can actually carry a little bit of extra weight. But most planes are a 2 or 4 seater. That's it. Your limit is like 15 pounds to carry on, and your luggage must be in a soft duffel type bag, soft sided. You cannot bring in hard sided suitcases, period. They had to squeeze them in the plane somehow. And so you do have that issue when you're packing. So you got to pack pretty lightly. But they do have laundry services, things like that. I mean, one of the places we stopped, Victoria Falls, was about halfway through. We just arranged, go to laundry service at the hotel. They just, picked up all of our clothes and brought it back the next day. It's fine. So, but you don't need things. I remember I looked at Gail's presentation. Don't bring hair dryers, things like that, because You're probably not gonna have it, but you don't need that kind of stuff anyway. No one really cares what you look like when you're out in safari. You're not out there for looks, so.
Real.
Hey, Glenn, Craig Schultz here.
Yes, sure. Yes, Greg.
Awesome presentation.
Thank you.
Really, really good. I
Yeah,
had,
I didn't do the shot diving that you did, so.
what's that?
I didn't do the shot diving that you did in Cape Town.
That's the only thing you missed, but that's one of the reasons I'm talking to you right now. I spent a total of 2 months in Africa several times, climbed Kilimanjaro, Serengeti, all the way down to South Africa, Mozambique, all that stuff you did. The question I've got, I've never been to Victoria Falls. Is that a must or is that so big deal?
A little bit of both. We planned it, and I'm really, really glad we went. And if I got the opportunity to go back again in the dry season, I probably wouldn't. If I got the opportunity to go back in the wet season, I probably would, just to see what it's like in the.
So it's worth it in the wet season.
Sorry?
You said it's worth it during the wet season.
Well, yeah, I think so. Okay, want to hear what Greg is saying? Sorry, he's asking about, is Victoria Falls worth going to, and is it worth going to in the wet season? Yes, I think it is one of those things it's nice to see. Do you need more than a couple of days there? Probably not. We spent probably too long there. We spent 4 or 5 days at each of our locations.
Oh, wow.
And that's probably too long and there. One
Okay.
of the things I found very, very interesting though in Zimbabwe is their currency. They went through a hyperinflation a number of years ago.
Right.
Went over there. So they were trying to sell us these $100,000, $1 million bills for pennies. When they went through the hyperinflation, they actually went up to $100 trillion bill.
Oh my God.
$100 trillion bill in American dollars is worth about $150. But before they started printing that kind of money, there's pictures of people going in with wheelbarrows loaded up with money. You can do it, search on the internet. Wheelbarrows to get a loaf of bread.
Crazy.
There's another story, and I don't know if it's true or just an accidental type thing, but a guy had his wheelbarrow loaded up. He went in somewhere, came back out. The wheelbarrow was loaded up with money, came back out. The money was still there, but the wheelbarrow was gone.
Jeez. Okay, I know that you did several river or lake cruises, which I did not. Is that something I need to do? And then I have one more question after this.
I would definitely recommend the river cruises. I would definitely recommend the lake cruises.
In the Botswana area?
It's one of those things. We had a mathematician here. I went through 10 countries. I mentioned earlier the top spots. There is at least 10 different stops in each one of those, probably a lot more. And we saw that. If you take the combinations and you want to do a 3-stop thing, so 10 countries, 10 different locations, and you want to do 3 stops, that's over 160,000 combinations.
Okay.
Mathematician?
Yeah. Okay. Well,
everyone's going to do something different. That's the bottom line. You're not going to be wrong in what you do.
You had a wonderful trip. I've got the big 5 as well, but your processing is awesome.
Thank you.
That's the one.
Also have my machine over here. And
Yeah.
in quality between what's up there, what was on a color corrected screen is immense. I mean, that was a much better pictures than saw. That projector's not very accurate.
Yeah, and that's true of pretty much any presentation you can see. So.
Right.
Well, that's the one thing that I lack. Last question.
Okay, he's still got more questions. I don't know. Should I cut him off here?
Yeah.
One more question, Glenn.
Okay,
real quick.
Greg, final question.
God dang it! One last question. Sudan. Do you know anything about that? I've got every animal in Africa you can take. I do not have the great gorillas.
That's Rwanda. You may want to go there for the gorillas.
You say I may want to?
Yeah, if you want the gorillas.
Well, I know. You know anything about it at all?
No, I never been there. So
Okay. All right, I'll go.
Okay, okay, maybe we'll hear Tom this time.
Okay. I've advertised him as an award-winning photographer. What's the opinion out here?
You betcha. Absolutely.
Just because I got a Date Festival award.
Yeah, you beat me. Yeah, there's always so many stories associated with this kind of trip.
Yeah, there is.
I mean, I've got some great.
Yeah, I tried to pick basically in each safari, I told you a story. There's so many more I could tell you. I mean, I took, like I said, over 16,000 pictures. We had a conversation here a little bit earlier before we started this about some elephants that have been attacking people, and we've heard of it. People out in the canoe getting attacked. That does happen. But in Tree, we had some crazy mamas, and that's what our guide called them, crazy mamas. So our guide knew to stay away from these elephants. So most of the guides know the animals that they are that they're associated, especially on the private reserves. Like I said, they name the animals, they know their behavior of all these animals, and et cetera, et cetera. They know which ones they can get close to and which ones they stay away from. One night we went out with the elephants and we could see them. It was getting close to sunset. And the elephants are just walking along. There's probably about 50 of them. And so what the guy did was got out in front of them and just parked. So he just came up and walked around our vehicle and continued on. So we just got right in the middle of it. Whereas the crazy mamas, you don't do that. I'm sitting in the fields with the painted dog, sitting in the fields with the rhinoceros. I mean, it's pretty amazing. And watching the elephants, how they interact as a family unit. I mean, each mother probably got 3 or 4 kids because, it takes years for the elephants to grow up, right? I mean, it's a 22-month gestation period long, but they have these juveniles for quite a number of years before they go off on their own. Whereas most animals, 1 year basically the line is they're gone, like they left home. But you see multiple generations with the elephants and how they protect their young, how they help other animals. It's amazing to watch.
They go off on their own after that year or whatever you said, or several years. They go off or they stay with the group?
The males will go off. So the males are lone animals, and that's true of the cattle. The bulls don't stay with the herd. It's just so the males will go off on their own. They're lone creatures by nature. They will come back during mating season. They have one thing on their mind for that, but basically they're on their own. The females will start up their own. So once they start having kids, they'll start up their own little group, little family group. Sometimes you get multiple females with a group. Sometimes they just, only 1 or 2 females, like full-grown females. But generally, I would say the most I saw, and Gail, you can probably correct me, probably 10 to 20 at a time, the elephants together. They're not large herds by any means. Whereas the Cape Buffalo, we've seen herds that were probably 100 Cape Buffaloes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Show you. Take this out. 16,000. You only got a taste here of the favorites, but just so many more. Line with the mouth around yeah. Okay, that's a nice story.
Again.
Thank you. Yeah, I want to go back. So. Well, thank you all for showing up.
Thank you. So Pat, I have an announcement